Greetings, my friends, and welcome to the top hidden niche picks for Blood Angels in 10th edition. This video, disclaimer, has been filmed like a day or two before the rumoured points upgrades, so rather than talk about the most competitive units, I thought it would be a great time to talk about some of those niche picks that could be good, that are unlikely to get their points changed. So let's dive into this week's tactics video. So the goals for the video are pretty clear, right? We're going to avoid the mega common units, which we know are good and are going to get their points deducted or put up or something like that. We're going to discuss the previously strong units that can fit into niche roles. I'm going to share some of my experience using them. If you follow the channel, you'll know that I do not follow the normal way of playing Blood Angels, which could be, I guess, 18 Sangre Guard if Sangre Guard are very point sufficient, or 30 Death Company. I like to keep my lists a little bit more fresh. Yes, they might not be as so meta, but I do try and grind out wins and have fun. So we're also going to add in some unorthodox combos there that are strong, just because people and the meta, they're not commonly seeing these combos, but they might see some play as we go forward, especially if Sangre Guard remain at 50 points per model. Let's friggin' hope they don't. You'll know by the time this video comes out. I think at 50 points per model, my advice would be do not run more than one squad. They're too expensive. They feel so damn nasty when they start dying at 50 points per model. And like I said, this video is going to be filmed 1 or 2 days before the new points cost. So we're going to try and focus on things that are probably not going to change. So let's talk about Centurions at the moment for Blood Angels. So Centurion assault squads were a squad that I ran in Gladius. I thought they were great in Gladius because they had advance and charge, and the problem with Centurions is they have a horrible 4-inch move. They do have great toughness, they do have a pretty good save, they do are 4 wounds per model, so pretty good against those 3 damage weapons. What Blood Angels have got then is we now have the ability to get advance and charge. We can actually advance, charge, and shoot. We also have some other interesting thing in that we basically can have a stratagem to prevent mortal wounds. So we know that one of the ways you would want to deal with Centurions with their T7 and 2-up save would be mortal wounds. Well, we have a stratagem that can prevent that. Against enemy armor, which I guess would be monsters, vehicles, or fortifications. Armor I usually categorize as like nasty, hard to kill units. Monsters, vehicles, fortifications. These guys are kind of unparalleled. Sustain 2. On a 4 attack per model, strength 12 on the charge, AP 2, damage 3 weapon that is twin linked. Now, I like to use these guys with Oath of Moment, and I guess that's a great advantage of using like lots of Death Company models or using Dante plus the Sangre Guard. Dante plus the Sangre Guard do not need your Oath of Moment. The Death Company do not need your Oath of Moment. It frees it up for the Centurions. I'm going to roll all my dice for 6s, and then I'm going to re-roll every single dice that isn't a 6, because every single 6 bursts into 3 hits. And 3 hits at strength 12, twin-linked, AP2, flat 3 is devastating. I had these guys, like 3 of them, 150 points. They basically one-shot like a 450-point knight 2 weeks ago with Oath of Moment. They're super good. They're super slow. So sometimes you might want to get them into transport. Unfortunately, they cannot fit inside impulsors. But their damage output against monsters and vehicles is kind of unparalleled. They're the only unit that we've got, bar maybe Dreadnoughts, that have 3 damage weapons. And someone said to me, what about the Brutalis Dreadnought? What about the Death Company Dreadnought versus the Centurions? I think I prefer the Centurions. I think they're easier to hide. And I think, like, they do have some flamers on them, so you do have some sort of Overwatch denial if enemy tries to swarm them with cheap units. They have bolters as well. They can have grenades. But I just think that they're the sheer number of attacks you can get. So statistically, I guess if you reroll for 6s twice, you're probably going to get a lot more than the 12 hits that they take. I think I had like 16 or 17 hits. 16 or 17 AP2 flat 3 damage. Even on a 4-up save or a 4-up invulnerable save, you're still going to fail like 7 or 8, flat 3, 20 plus damage. I think I like them more than the Dreadnoughts. And they are ever so slightly cheaper. They are easier to hide. They do fit in transports. Yeah, Centurion Assault Squads, they were very good in Gladius. And I think that all the strength that Gladius had extends over to what we have with them in the new Liberator Assault Group. So I think in Liberator Assault Group, Centurions are a great choice. What about aggressors? We haven't seen too many people play aggressors. A bit cheaper than Centurions. They do have the twin-linked fists with 4 attacks again. This time it's just strength 10 and AP 2. Their flamers are quite a bit better, potentially because they basically get to AP 1 if they shoot against the closest eligible target. 120, or they can be run in a squad of 6 for 240. Again, they possibly benefit for transports. I think flamers is the way you want to play them right now. I know you can attach the biologists, and I know you can get lethal hits with them. But I think their melee's pretty good, being like pretty reliable with the twin-linked power fist, strength 10. So the aggressors could attach to the biologists if you want. You could also give them the fight first enhancement if you wanted. A captain with the aggressors isn't the worst thing in the world as well, because of the reduction in potential CP, so you can Armor of Contempt them. They are toughness 6. They do have a 3-up save, so Armor of Contempt is actually pretty meaningful on them. So we don't see many people run aggressors, but I know a lot of Blood Angels players do have aggressors because they've obviously been very popular in Gladius. I think a squad of aggressors might work. I guess the transport for the aggressors is a tricky thing. But some people are hanging on to their Land Raiders. Some people are even hanging on to the Redeemers. If you are hanging on to those units, or if you are going back to them, then maybe the squad of aggressors is a good choice for you. I think the more popular squad out of these 3, though, will be the Terminators with bolters and ideally power fists. Now, the great thing about these Terminators is they have the potential rapid ingress free. So you put down your teleport armor at the start of the game, you can rapid ingress in for free. If you target your Oath of Moment target, you get to add +1 to your hit roll. So basically, if you target your Oath of Moment target with these guys, all their shooting starts hitting on 2s with rerolls to hit, and all their melee, especially like the power fists, will hit on 2s with rerolls to hit. These guys, a squad of 5 guys with power fists is going to have 20 power fist attacks. This is essentially what the Death Company used to have, right? Like if the Death Company had power fist, we used to get 20, we'd hit on 3s, we'd reroll because of Black Rage. Well, with this, you would hit on 2s, you reroll from Black Rage. So essentially you're getting 20 strength 10 power fists. I think it's very strong. There's 2 brilliant ways you can actually run this unit. One is to attach the Terminator Chaplain, giving them permanent +1 to wound. Very strong when I just explained you can hit with 20 power fists. The other one you can do is attach the Librarian. Also gives you sustained 1. So with those 20 hits you're going to make, you're likely going to roll some 6s. So potentially get like 23, 24, maybe even 25 hits. And the thing about attaching Librarian is you can pay the 1 CP for Lance and give them lethal hits or +1 to wound. So the Chaplain's going to cost you less CP and be reliable all the time, right? Because even if you are charged, and if you give the Chaplain the fight first, if you are charged, you're then going to hit the enemy. If you use Savage Echoes, you're going to hit them 20 times with Power Fists with +1 to wound. It's going to be very, very strong. And the Librarian is a little bit more offensive, and the Librarian is pretty cool because he does give you sustained 1 on your shooting as well. His smite's pretty good too, and you get sustained 1 on that too, but I mean, he does help you with those crack missiles, right? A couple of 6s on those crack missiles, all of a sudden you got 4 crack missiles come out the Cyclone Launcher. I think Terminators are going to be hard to field in 10 because they have a very big footprint with those 40mm bases, but I definitely think we will see some people fielding 5-man Terminators. My thought is Librarian and Chaplain are the best options. The Captain is maybe not too far behind, but I think we are going to see some people pick up a unit of Terminators for rapid ingress, for advance and charge, to try and fill a hole of like the Death Company damage that we have lost. Because let's face it, the Death Company have lost 8. It's not 8 power fists, sorry, it's 7 in the 10-man. But they've lost a lot of their potential damage output. I think a 5-man Terminator squad could replace them. And Terminators are super durable. Toughness 5 now, 4-up in Vun save, and, again, potential to ignore mortal wounds with the Blood Angel strat. Let's talk about the Chaplain on foot. This is maybe not as edge case as you might think, but it is a unit that we haven't seen too much of, and a lot of the new Blood Angel stratagems allow you to fall to the Red Thirst, and when you do, your unit becomes battle shocked. So you can take both benefits from the stratagem and become battle shocked. Few examples are you can get lance and lethal hits, but you're battle shocked. You can fall back, shoot and charge, but you're battle shocked. You can advance, shoot and charge, but you're battle shocked. So there's lots of ways that you potentially battle shock your own units. This Chaplain on foot, once per game, you can pick a unit within 12 at the start of any phase and remove the battle shock. So he's a pretty cheap Chaplain. Chaplains obviously give a permanent +1 to wound with the unit that they're with, comboed with the fact that we can get extra strength when we charge, or we can get extra strength when we are charged. And then there's a couple of options here. I think the most obvious one would be Blade Guard. Chaplains with Blade Guard are very, very strong, but we could do some small Death Company squads. I think that would be the real options here. I mean, I guess you could use Assault Intercessors if you're really struggling for points. But I think this Chaplain on Hifut, this is a model, I must admit, before the new Codex I've never played. Now I'm playing it in every game. So, yeah, and I guess if you are running multiple Death Company units, Chaplains do help you make sure they have OC and make sure they can fall back. Let's talk about Vindicator Tanks next. Vindicator Tanks are very good with T11 and a 2-up save. Now, the reason that we don't see them, or we didn't see them too much in Blood Angels, was because their main cannon, the Demolisher Cannon, only has 24 inches. Now, in Gladius, they could fall back and shoot, they could advance and shoot. Well, these are two things that we have got back in Liberator Assault Group. So two of the big reasons to take these have been returned to us. They were removed from us with Sons of Sanguinius, but they are back with Liberator Assault Group. So if these things are back, then potentially some of the weakness of the Demolisher tank has been removed. And I think since we were playing the Demolisher tank, what's actually happened is Tank Shock has changed to rather use your strength, it now uses your toughness. So if you are going to Tank Shock with a Demolisher tank, you are rolling 11 dice. Every 5 up is a mortal wound, so statistically that should be somewhere between 3 or 4 mortals. So this thing can now fall back, it could shoot, or it could, it could fall back, it could shoot, it could charge with a Tank Shock. Just remember, if you fall back and choose to use both parts of that stratagem, you would be battle shocked. But, I mean, I guess that's where this Chaplain comes in. So you could pick the Demolisher tank, or you could pick the Vindicator tank within 12 inches of the Chaplain. After it's fallen back and shoot, at the start of the charge phase, you could say, aha, its battle shock's removed. Now it's going to Tank Shock you for 4 mortal wounds and charge you. I mean, that, you know, maybe you leave a character and a few wounds you just really want to get rid of. Perfect, he can do it. So I think some of the negatives of the Demolisher tank, if you want to call it Demolisher tank, Demolisher cannon on the Vindicator, some of the negatives have been removed. I think you could totally put these guys into reserve. 175 points. They were 210 points. I actually thought they were kind of playable at like 210, so I think they're good costed now. Bring them in from reserve. Hit an enemy, and the cool thing about Demolisher tanks is they kill everything, right? Like, they're good at anti-armor, but they're also really good at anti-elites, just because I guess if you come up to a squad of Terminators, you're getting a minimum of 5 shots at strength 14, AP 3, then, you know, they're going to fail a few of them, so then it just comes down to your d6 rolls. Can you roll 3 up a few times and kill some Terminators? So Vindicators could see a bit of a resurgence. I know a lot of people like the double Gladiator Lancer, I think that is good, but I mean, I played double Vindicator at a tournament in Gladius, and my Vindicator tanks, if you point 2 of them at the same target, like, statistically you end up with some, like, the average of a d6 is 3.5, so if you point them both at the same target, you're getting like 13 strength 14 hits, and if it's early in the game you use a Hunter Killer Missile as well, you know, you're getting 15 strength 14 hits. Typically you want to Oath of Moment your target, so 15 strength 14 hits, that will do some significant damage, especially when you're re-rolling all hits, right? Because most of the time you're going to be wounding on 2s or 3s. Can't think, unless you're shooting a Stomper, you're pretty much always wounding on 2s or 3s, even against Knights and stuff like that. So, if you are enjoying today's video, please do consider liking, subscribing, hit the bell notification button. My name is John, we're here every week, and yes, this is a bit of a different video this week, but we'll be back next week, so now we have all the new points costs for Blood Angels. So, Suppressors, they're a unit that we don't see much at all, but I do think they are a niche unit within the range. But I actually think there's some play here, and one of the questions I had on my stream actually this week was like, how do I deal with a fight first Blade Guard veteran squad that is being led by a Chaplain? If you're not familiar with the Blade Guard, now, if an enemy is leading Blade Guard with a Chaplain and he is the fight first enhancement, you are going to be wrecked with most squads if you charge those Blade Guard. I was actually thinking about it, like, if you charge them with 10 Death Company, for example, the Blade Guard actually statistically make 23 hits. Because they'll be on strength 6 with +1 to wound, they wound you on 2s. So something like 83% of 23. So the Blade Guard are going to make you take 19 saves at AP 2 if you charge them as a squad of Death Company. So statistically, if you're only saving on 5 ups, you're probably gonna fail something in the region of 12 or 13 saves. So you're telling me if I charge 10 Death Company with a character into a 6-man squad of Bladeguard led by a Chaplain with Fight First, I'm going to lose all 10 Death Company, and it's like 50-50 if the character's going to die. That's how much damage they're doing. So someone's saying, how are we dealing with that? Like, if I come up against another Blood Angels player and they have that, and I've gone all melee, because some Blood Angels players like to go all melee, they don't want to put any shooting in their list. I'm the opposite. I like to have a little bit of shooting, probably for situations like this. What shooting would I have that would help this? Well, suppressors would actually be a great job here, right? Because each suppressor gets 3 attacks. They stay still, so they hit on 3s. So into a unit of Bladeguard, you would actually make 6 hits. Your strength 8, so you would wound on 2s. So potentially you would actually make the Bladeguard fail 2.5 saves statistically, because -1 AP is perfect, puts them on their Storm Shield. So basically, like, suppressors with their autocannons will be able to kill a Bladeguard every single turn they shoot, and they will also give those Bladeguard -1 to hit, which could actually be meaningful, changing their hits from 3s to 4s. Now, typically, if you are going to fight into an enemy unit that is like a Chaplain plus Bladeguard, you're going to want to whittle some of those Bladeguard, because I've just told you how much damage the full squad can do. So you'd want to shoot them with the suppressors. That's great. They're -1 to hit now when they fight you. You maybe want to grenade them with the unit Death Company you're going to go in. So maybe you've now killed 2, and you've made them -1 to hit. So all of a sudden you could drastically reduce how many of your Death Company. You're still going to get a bit mollered, and it'd probably be a good idea to actually charge with like Astras Death Companies, so you can get the 4-up fight on Death. So if he does kill a bunch of models, they can still fight. But yeah, I actually think at 85 points, the suppressors can hang back 48 inches. They could do some actions. They could do behind enemy lines, and they could. And -1 to hit is not inherently all that bad, right? Like, it's for the entire battle round. You pick a big, nasty enemy unit that you know has a ton of damage. For example, I was fighting a Stompa this week. The Stompa shooting is ridiculous. It's like blowing up a tank or blowing up a unit or 2 every turn. Making it -1 to hit every turn from 48 inches isn't the worst idea in the world. So not a very common play to put the suppressors on the list, but there is some value there for sure. The Stompa is a great example, actually, because it only hits on 5s. So making it -1 to hit is actually making it hitting on 6s. And I guess hitting on 6s, it suddenly becomes a lot less scary. Okay, let's talk next about company heroes. Now, we don't see too many people run company heroes, but they fit really nicely inside an impulsor. They have to be led by a captain, because our chapter master is Dante and he can't lead these company heroes. But I think these company heroes are a very, very strong squad. They do have the banner giving them +1 OC. So the 4 guys plus the captain is 10 OC. Even if they get battle shocked, they'd still keep the OC because of the banner. Or at least they keep 1 of their OC. There's -1 to wound while the character is leading the unit. So they're just -1 to wound until they're all dead, basically, until just the character's left. And they are 4 wounds per model. So they're good breakpoint models against like 3 damage weapons. And, you know, like we talked the other day about like Chaos Knights and their 3 damage chain talon, then this is a great unit because they need to swipe twice with a 3 damage weapon to kill a single model, and they're -1 to wound, so no longer those chain talons wounding on 2s, they're wounding on 3s. So it's like, it's a double negative. If you're fighting Chaos Knights, and I did beat Chaos Knights recently in a tournament, my company heroes were a big standout unit, and do you know what? My company heroes were a standout unit into the orcs as well. So I think if you're looking for a durable unit that can hold an objective in a bad position and can have OC, and maybe not mentioned enough is the fact that the hero with the sword gets precision, and you can give precision to your character as well. So you basically, if you use that finest hour captain, you could basically get something in the region of like, because this guy gets 7 attacks, your finest hour captain gets 9. So you get something in the region of like 16 attacks before you factor in like the captain could take that new relic that gives potentially sustained. But you get 16 attacks at AP2, 2 damage, which can all have precision. So you could snipe out an enemy character pretty effectively with the company heroes. It's a cool unit. I think like it doesn't get enough play, but I actually really like it. Next up, let's talk about that little repulsor that doesn't see too much play as well. Is the cheapest way to transport those Centurions or those Terminators or those Gravis models. Now, here's my take on the impulsor. It's 60 points cheaper than the cheapest Land Raider. It's like 105 points cheaper than Redeemer. It's still got the 16 wounds, it's still got the T12. So I feel like if the enemy has the potential to kill a toughness 12 vehicle with 16 wounds, like a Land Raider, they probably have this potential to kill a repulsor. So my thought is, I'll take the repulsor because it's cheaper, it'll still draw all my enemies' fire for probably one turn, and if they're going to be able to kill the repulsor, they're literally going to be able to kill the Land Raider anyway. So you can still smokescreen this guy, you can still Armor of Contempt it. I feel it's slightly less valuable than doing it against the Land Raider. But here's the thing, a Volcano Cannon against a Land Raider, even if you use Armor of Contempt, you still only save on 6s. Are you really going to spend 1 CP to try and save on a 6 against a Volcano Cannon that is D6 plus 8? You know, like minimum 9, maximum 14 damage in one shot. And typically knights have a bunch more firepower, right? So I like the repulsor. I think it is cheap. In some games it'll do well. It gets a boatload of bolter shots. It's like 18 bolter shots. It does still have a twin las cannon. It does still have a double las talon. Basically a 2-shot strength 10 las cannon. Has the quirky idea that basically if the enemy charges a model or a unit that's within 3, they can hop back inside it. So if it's those Blade Guard that are out in the center of the board and the repulsor's kicking around, the enemy might need to finally whittle down and charge those Blade Guard. Well, you just jump back inside and say, no, you don't actually get to fight the Blade Guard this time. It is quirky. It has had its transport capacity increased to 14. So there's some good combos you can fit inside it. You could actually fit 2 squads of 6 Blade Guard plus 2 characters. I don't know how many people will be fielding Repulsor, but I fielded it at a tournament. I have it in my list at the moment. Which I'm undefeated with, playing it in Liberator Assault Group. I just feel like the enemy are always going to blow up something, right? Like, it's very unrealistic to expect that nothing in your army is going to die and that you can hide everything every turn. So if something is going to have to take the brunt of the enemy's force, why not take it on the cheapest toughness 16... Oh, I wish it was toughness 16. Toughness 12, 16 wound model. And that's why I think it's got some play over the Land Raider. Plus, Land Raiders have had a couple of points hikes now, and yeah, I'm okay with the Repulsor. I think it gives jump units like Dante plus 6 Sangre Guard fit inside, so it gives them extra threat range. Sangre Guard we know are super expensive. It protects them at least for a couple of turns. So I'm kind of okay with the Repulsor at the moment. I'm going to keep fielding it. I guess we'll see what happens with the new points update. Let's talk a little bit about a unit that no one is running in Liberator Assault Group and why it could be strong. This was a unit that got some play at the start of 10th edition in Gladius, I think, as well, because it was Stern Guard, and I think their data sheet has changed a little bit since the start of 10th edition, but they do have, each guy has this bolt rifle, which has assault, devastating wounds, heavy, rapid fire 1, strength 4, 1 damage, AP 1, but dev wounds, obviously. So 3 shots within 12 inches. Each time in a model this unit makes an attack against your Oath of Moment target, reroll wounds of 1. So potentially an extra reroll to get more devastating wounds. Now, a Stern Guard Sergeant's bolt rifle can be replaced with a Power Fist on the bolt rifle. So you can still have the bolt rifle in every model. You've put a Power Fist on the Sergeant. Any number can replace their combi weapon. I wouldn't do that. I don't think combi weapons are worth anything these days. No one runs them. And then 1 model for every 5 can take the Heavy Bolter, which also has dev wounds, or can take a Pyro Cannon, which is actually kind of like a pretty good flamer. Strength 6, AP 1, 1 damage, D6 plus 1, ignores cover, torrent, and you could have 2 of those. So, the Pyro Cannon sound way better than those Infernus Marines. You could maybe proxy 2 Infernus Marines as the Stern Guard if you need the weapons. Because I think maybe the easy-to-build guys only came with the heavy bolters. But anyway, if you did just for simplicity arm every single model with a Stern Guard bolt rifle and you gave the captain a Power Fist, right? Then I guess the interesting thing is Blood Angels can advance and shoot and charge now. So we move 6, we advance. Because these are assault and rapid fire, we're going to fire 3 shots with devastating wounds, with reroll 1s. If we're into our Oath of Moment target, we're rerolling all hits. So we basically get like 30 potential devastating wound shots out there. So you could imagine 5 or 6 devastating wounds might be a possibility. There might also be like a good number of strength 4 AP1 shots that potentially need saved. And then we charge, and we're being led by a Sanguinary Priest. So this is a reasonably expensive unit at the moment. We don't know the cost of the Sanguinary Priest, but I think that the Stern Guard are unlikely to change at 180. The Sanguinary Priest gives the entire unit 1 AP, so they're close combat weapons, and they are getting 5 attacks per model on the charge. So basically you are going to get the equivalent of 45 chainswords, strength 4, AP1, and then you're going to get that Power Fist, which again gets 5 attacks, strength 10, AP3. And then you've got the Priest to put on top. So this is a unit that no one's playing, but I guess everybody has Stern Guard because they were in the Leviathan box. So if you've been sitting, if you're not sure how to build out your Blood Angels army, you don't have a giant budget, you could totally build up these 10 Stern Guard. Not many people would expect them to be played. So I think sometimes when people don't expect them to be played, they don't know how to deal with them. You know, 30 bolter shots with dev wounds, 45 chainsword attacks, 5 power fist attacks, you know, that's 80 odd attacks. Factor in the Sanguinary Priest in there, you're almost at 90 attacks. Yeah, they are all 1 damage and low strength, but I mean 90 attacks will wreck a lot of stuff, even potentially like some Terminator squads and something. Like 90, if you're using the Oath of Moment, 90 attacks, even if you're wounding on 5s, is still going to probably be like something in the range of 20 or 30 saves, and a bunch of them are going to be dev wounds. So no one's using this, but there's an interesting niche pick that might actually get some play. I also wanted to talk about Outriders, because there was so much discussion about these guys on Reddit, and how a lot of people said Outriders are completely uncompetitive, and that you shouldn't use them. In fact, if we talk about Outriders, there was like 30 comments in this Reddit thread where lots of people just said, no, Outriders are not, they're not competitive. Don't use them. Short answer, no, don't use them. My thought on Outriders, right, and I wrote this detailed Reddit post, right? They have good defensive profile and they're toughness 5. They've got 18 inches of movement, which is guaranteed because they always advance 6. A lot of people do compare them to assault intercessors with jump packs. Defensively, right, they've got more toughness, i.e. if you fought against like knights that have autocannons, they wound them on 3s rather than wounding on 2s. Pretty meaningful. They also are good against those 3 damage incoming profiles because you need 2 3 damage to kill a single bike. So I guess like against autocannons, the difference is giant, right? Like wounding on 2s rather than wounding on 3s, and then 2 failed saves for a dead model as opposed to 1. They also have more OC than a unit of assault intercessors, right? 5 assault intercessors with jump packs is 5. Outriders have 6 because it's 2 per model. If you want to dump something on an objective early and live, then I guess Outriders are going to be better. If you play against indirect fire, and there is a lot of indirect fire out there, again, strength 4 or 5 can make a bit of a difference. Even after losing 7 wounds on the Outriders, you also don't have to take battle shock, right? Because you still have 2 models alive. So if you lose 7 wounds on the assault intercessors, you're taking battle shock for sure. Yes, they have a less attacks than the assault intercessors, but they still get 15 strength 6 chainswords. So I think 15 strength 6 chainswords will still blend some weak units. I mean, they're not a killing unit. Like I said, you take them for the defensive profile. They have massive bases, which you can use to your advantage, right? Like one of the things that I like to do in my battles is put like a line of Outriders sometimes with all my jump units behind them. So if my opponent wants to charge into my lines, there's literally no way for them to fit their models through to kill like my more squishier Death Company or my more squishier Sanguinary Guard that I really need to live. Whereas if they kill a unit of Outriders, I literally don't care. When I won the GT list, I actually threw 2 units of Outriders in and 2 units of Assault Intercessors. And I thought when I put those units into my list, I was like, I'm probably going to drop one of the Outrider units and probably have 3 units of Assault Intercessors and 1 unit of Outriders. But I very quickly found like the Outriders are just a nuisance. People focused on them because they're fast and they're maneuverable. Now they have advance and charge, so they can move 18 inches and still make charges. If you need to throw a unit out into the open early game, Outriders feel better than Jump Assault Intercessors because Jump Assault Intercessors are more unlikely to survive if they're just jumped out into the open trying to like do an action, hold an objective. So yeah, I think Outriders are a very under-favoured unit that many people don't play. I don't think there's any value in adding the Invader ETV. I don't think there's any value in running 6 of them. I don't think there's any value in attaching a captain to them. I think we're taking them for their defensive profile, and then I guess when you run into a unit of like, I don't know, 5 Eldar Aspect Warriors, or they're not Aspect Warriors, Dire Avengers or something, like when you run into 5 Toughness 3 enemy models, yes, they're going to kill 5 Toughness 3 enemy models. Your Jump Intercessors will kill them as well. I just think these guys will be still around to do something in the next turn. And yeah, I'm very much... You know what, I never actually realised till right this minute that Outriders had grenades. Good to know. I guess remember you can't use your grenades after you advance. But, yeah, I think Outriders are fine. I mean, twin bolt rifles is very average. I don't really rate it. But, I mean, I guess it occasionally chips off a wound. So I think Outriders are a unit we don't see too much of. But I have definitely found value in them. I've got 2 of them in my list, and I cannot see any time me removing them soon. The only reason I think I'd remove them is if I put in more Impulsors. But Impulsors are not a niche pick. They're a strong pick, and they're not in this video, and we'll come back to them in a later week. So in conclusion, this is a very different video to what I normally do. It's sometimes good to change things up and think outside the box. If you didn't catch the live stream yesterday, and I'm saying this in advance, I assume I'm going to be live on the 17th. There might not even have been a live stream yesterday if the points cost didn't come out. I'm filming this earlier in the week. But if the live stream is yesterday, then I'll make sure it's linked in the video comments, and we can start to make videos and talk about all the new points costs for the Blood Angels moving forward into 10th edition. Remember, however, the Combat Patrol, which is the Sanguinary Guard, the 10 Assault Intercessors, and the Captain, is finally going on sale tomorrow here in the UK and the US. There's some affiliate links in the description that will save you up to 20% on your order. And it's apparently coming with a different transfer sheet that has 540 transfers on it. You can see this. I actually got it. Someone was kind enough to share it over in Reddit. But this is a very cool transfer sheet with a bunch that I don't think we've ever even seen before. So yeah, dive into that at your own will. We'll talk about it in live stream. But yes, so a pretty good transfer sheet coming with this Combat Patrol. Especially like any of the gold transfers, because we don't always get them. I especially like some of these vampire-y ones. So it seems like a solid sheet. And you've got the Crimson, sorry, you've got the Flesh Tearers down there. You've got the Angels in Carmine, and I believe this is the Angels Vermilion, I think. So some other successor chapters. Someone was saying that there's no Lamenters yesterday. I don't know if Lamenters ever really got transfer sheets. Someone can keep me right in the comments. Did Lamenters ever get transfers? I don't ever remember seeing them. But this is the way to get basically the Sanguinary Guard and the new Captain at the best price. And I believe you get an upgrade sprue in there as well. So the upgrade sprue on its own is going to be like 22, 23 bucks. So, I mean, you'll save a ridiculous amount of money, probably as much as 50 or 60 bucks if you buy the Combat Patrol tomorrow. So please do that. And now, if there's anything else, you can leave me a comment. If you didn't yet watch the video on the new Sanguinary Guard, it is here now, and I recommend you should just watch it. And if you want to support the channel in any other way, there's some links on our Patreon in the description. Have a great weekend, guys. I'll see you next week for a video, hopefully with the new points. We'll start diving into the best Blood Angels lists for 10th edition in Liberator Assault Group and the other new detachments. Have a great weekend. Thanks so much. I'll catch you next time. By the Blood Army Made Strong. Peace.